Hey, what's up, guys? Ryan here with the Sales Athlete Podcast, and in this episode, I'm actually on the road. So I'm on a road trip here, hitting up California before flying to San Antonio for the big expo for the roofing convention, IRE, and then I'm sliding over to Phoenix for my friend's event that he's hosting with some of the most legendary operators in the home services space, and then I'm heading back to San Antonio, popping into Nashville, and then coming through Salt Lake, where I'm speaking at Fence Tech. So, which is their kind of annual fencing conference at the American Fence Association. So yeah, it's going to be a busy February here in 2025. But yeah, so while I'm here, I just have just my camera posted up, and I want to talk about something that's super important to just what we talk about as a sales athlete every single day is having a sales process. And so the sales process is so key if you want to be successful. It's sounding an awful lot like an athlete saying, "Hey, I don't have mechanics or a thought process and a framework where in which I do what I do." So, for example, every football player, they have their mindset, they have their plays, they have their coverages, they have their routes. But then when they go about what they're doing, there's technique in their actual route or their plan. Just like a football player, just like a baseball player, just like a pitcher, a hitter, a basketball player, a soccer player, they have the overall mindset, the strategy, and then there's technique and tactics within what they do. And so not having a good sales process is a lot like saying, "I don't know the mechanics of my swing," or "I don't know the timing in which I should swing and hit the ball." There's a lot that goes into being offensive in terms of putting points on the board as an athlete. And as a sales athlete, not having a sales process is gonna inhibit you from being, the best that you can be. And what I love about a sales process is that it can be thoughtful and mechanical in a sense, in a way that's repeatable, and it works, and it builds on one another, but it can be human, and it can be authentic, and it can be relational. So, my thoughts are if the sales process is easy to understand, easy to navigate, and you're easy to control or steward, then you're gonna have better success. And it needs to build on the sales process needs to be set up where it's building upon each step, and then each step needs to be easy to remember, but it also needs to be something that requires real skill. Because at the end of the day, like major league hitters or major league shooter or NBA shooters or NFL, football players or quarterbacks, they all have tremendous skill. And so to be at the highest level, and for me as a sales coach in the contracting arena, the highest level is either going to be residential with premium products in a very competitive market. So that's a high level at a high volume, right? In a very retail based scenario, which is either financing or cash sales, or commercial, where it's private negotiated work with potentially institutional professional buyers in a very competitive market. And so the good news is with the right skills, you can still dominate because most people on average really stink at professional selling. And so having the sales process is like having a guide and a way to navigate every single sales motion, every single selling cycle. And the better you get at the sales process, the tighter you can create distance, the tighter you can merge the milestones. And when the milestones of the sales process are easy for you to kind of hit, you know how to get to them, you can stitch those milestones together faster and close deals. And so I'm a big fan of having a sales process. And so there's different frameworks out there. There's spin selling, impact selling. Hermosi's got the closer framework. We use and we teach baseline selling. So baseline selling is essentially a baseball diamond that you just look at: home to first, first to second, second to third, third to home. Home is the essentially the outbound motion or an inbound motion, and first base is an appointment. So there's a few milestones that we hit between home and first, but you're basically like, okay, home to first is the activity of something happening where there's an awareness stage. If someone says, "I have a problem," and then you get them on first base, and now you have an appointment, which is an actual phone or Zoom, or ideally on the in-home sale or the in-person sale with commercial. It's the B2B sale will be an in-person meeting. And this is where you actually set up. a set of questions. And so home to first to second is going to be a very conversational, resistance lowering environment where there's low resistance, but the salesperson is leading the charge and taking control of this of the process. And then that's when you start to ask certain questions, and you need to use active listening skills to actually be the best salesperson you can be, and not just like go into a pitch. And I think that where a lot of people get into trouble is if they don't know the milestones of the sales process, they have trouble navigating and keeping the prospect on track. If they don't know what they're trying to accomplish in the process, they're going to get pulled outside of what they're trying to do, and therefore they're going to start to do what the customer's asking, which typically is going to be dump me with my actual decision makers, give me a price and what you think without giving you any answers, and then let me tell you when I want to buy. And that's not going to help you as a contractor or a sales professional or whoever you are actually give them the true counsel you want to give them, where it doesn't come across like you're just trying to save the deal and just like throw a Hail Mary at the very end. Instead, if you have a process and you have the ability to manage the rapport connection and have enough respect that you created in the relationship in that short moment, then you can actually ask all the questions you want, get all the answers you want before you even put together a price and propose anything. Now, I will say that I think that the simpler and the more repeatable your pitch is the better you're going to be at selling. The more consistent, the more the product you sell, the service you lead with. If you can do that every single time on like 99.9 out of 10, right? You're going to find that you're going to sell better. But it doesn't mean that you skip out on all the things beforehand. And the things that happen beforehand should be milestones that we accomplish. So when you start the sales process, you obviously want to make sure that there's no resistance that's really high. So if you feel like you see people with a wall up, you want to make sure that you lower that before you start to go into anything. And most people are going to start with some sort of a wall. But if you have a referral, or you can name drop a relationship, or you can build some sort of rapport, that'll begin lowering their guard. But the guard really lowers when we start asking good questions. And so some things that I'm really big on is like finding out what's their compelling reason to buy your service, not just to, buy from you, but why do they want to buy in general? And of course, if you're part of what they're thinking of in terms of why they want to buy, you need to find that out too. And typically, when you find out why they want to buy from you, the reality is they're going to be spending more money to work with you, and they're going to be doing something that is they're probably going to be spending more money to get more value from you because you're not like everybody else in most cases. And so where I'm going with this is you need to get them to sell you on why they want to work with you and why they want to fix it. And they need to get to that you need to get them to share all the things they've tried to do before that didn't work. And so as you're doing this, you're listening and you're making a business case, and you'll see patterns all the time, right? You're going to see patterns as you do this over and over again with your clients. But you're going to find out these patterns, and then you're going to find out from them when you ask them why they don't want to keep doing that, and why would they do anything differently. And the other thing is you want to find out how that affects them and their organization and the world around them by not having this fixed, or it's their home, or not having this fixed. So having them share with you their reasons, that's oftentimes personal or business reasons to buy and to fix it, whether it's with you or whoever, is going to help you understand how meaningful and time sensitive the situation is. And something that starts to create is gaps, is creates a distance. So when you find out their current agitated state and you ask all these questions about that in high definition detail, then you start to immediately create a gap. And then the better you separate that gap, the more distant they feel from actually buying or from being there without some expertise. So something that I've also noticed is that when you have the milestone of like finding the cost consequence or the quantifying the problem by putting a monetized amount, like putting numbers and cash and their numbers that they're coming up with to the problem itself. So now you have a problem with a compelling reason that they want to fix it, all the things that they try to do to fix it, why it didn't work, and they're telling you the story in high definition. And then all you do is you just find out the cost that they can come up with in their number of not solving this and how impactful it'll be. When you do that, you start to create enough tension, enough of a gap where they're like, "How do we fix this and how can you help? Because this is becoming significant." You should be hanging out in that hot tub of pain. You should be hanging out in that hot tub of emotion that they're sharing, and like being completely stoic and okay and not too excited when they tell you all these things. So basically, there's a series of things that happens from home to first to second. This is where I like to say they're a real prospect. Now let me measure their ability to buy by asking a few more qualifying questions. So for example, um, are they committed to doing this? 9 or 10 out of 10. If they're under an 8, then you need to find out why. And this may not be a priority enough where it's going to get you to the point where you should be putting together a proposal. Also, do they, does anybody else care about this that you haven't spoken with? And I like to use that word, who else cares about this, and that phraseology because, at the end of the day, if there's other people that care or partners or whoever it may be, and you're trying to sell just one person every single time, you're going to have a lower closing ratio than you would if you just got both people there. The other thing that um, matters on the commercial side is you want to be able to sell your way through creating that leverage on the front end into getting a meeting with the board. That meeting with the board is going to be huge because you're going to have um, a better chance of closing and presenting and qualifying and selling to the actual board. So you want to sell that meeting, especially in commercial. You're leveraging this first meeting on the commercial side, B2B, to get that other meeting. And then from there, there's a few other things, finding out how time sensitive this is, who else they've really tried to work with, or they're looking at working with rather, and what's their solution awareness look like before you get into this situation, and then you fully recap everything. And now you're gonna get into this, "Hey, let's put together a price and solve this problem." Ideally, if you can, when they're in this place of pain, if you can put together a higher ticket solution in that moment and estimate and propose something in that moment, that's consistent with what you do on a regular basis, that's gonna be the winner. In some cases, in B2B, you're gonna need to spend an extra amount of time measuring buildings or doing some more complicated cost analysis to find out what this is going to look like. So from there, they're qualified. You're on third base, and then I would like to say that's a closable deal. And then from third to home is whenever you estimate, present, close, overcome objections, score. And there's a few other things I could talk about in terms of that framework, but basically, in recap, home to first is the inbound or outbound motion with an identified problem. First base is a meeting. From first to second, you're going to find out their compelling reasons to buy. That's going to create a differentiation in their perception. That's going to be meaningful because you're asking better questions, you have better rapport, you're doing better things than everyone else, but you understand them. And then you're finding out the cost of that problem. And now you have a real business case and you have actual leverage in the conversation. And then from there, you feel tension, you feel a gap, you feel distance. Now, must actually measure their ability to buy and get them to express their commitment. Who everybody that needs to make a decision will be a part of it. And that you're understanding all these variables before you get too excited and present. Most salespeople they go to first base and have an appointment. And they skip over the pitcher's mound to third and go home. And they don't actually round the bases properly because when you do all those things, you're actually eliminating objections. You're getting them to identify those things beforehand, and you're going to have less to overcome later. And you're also going to have a higher closing ratio as a result. You're going to close faster as a result, and you're going to find yourself crushing. So like salesmanship, it depends on like how fast the sales cycle is, how big the ticket is. But as a sales athlete, basically you're like, okay, I can get into a flow state of knowing these milestones and then just using my God-given ability, my listening skills, and my techniques in that moment to smoothly get through them, not fast per se, but get through them well so that by the time it's time for me to ask for the sale, it's like easy, right? It's easy peasy and it comes out it's a smooth sale. Um and you don't feel like you're stressed out having to do it. And I don't really like selling with a lot of like hype and like convincing people. It doesn't need to happen like that. It could be super smooth, could be super easy, but if you don't have control, it's because you don't know what you're doing. And if you don't know what you're doing and you don't have a sales process that has milestones that support good salesmanship. And so I'm a big fan of like getting your athletes or you as a salesperson becoming like an athlete where you're so fundamentally dialed, so fundamentally sound that like you're going to knock it out of the park. You're going to hit it on the sweet spot on a regular basis because you're just so good at applying a good process that supports great salesmanship with your God-given ability. And then you can get yourself more and more plate appearances, more and more at bats, so to speak, by prospecting, asking referrals, getting more meetings, posting more on social media, generating more leads, creating more value. So this is super helpful. And we actually teach this on a regular basis. In fact, like if you're interested in coming to one of our workshops and learning more about how we can help your business and your sales org, just go to sellonscg.com and it's SELL, not like a molecular cell, but like selling a sell, SELLONSTG, sellonstg.com. And we can talk to you about our workshop and you can come hang out with us and we can go into this in depth with you and your business and help you guys sell more. But all that said, sales people are like athletes. They're playing a sport. They're playing a sport to win. Athletes have a process, and so do salespeople. And if you want to be the best, you need one. Pick one and run with it. But ours as at STG is really, really good, and it's proven to crush. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and that's it. Peace.